Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. My name is Louisa and I help high achievers, entrepreneurs and coaches lift the lid on life and business so that they can live at their highest value. Each episode we will bring you our favourite founders, CEOs and guest experts to share with you their insights and strategies to expand your wealth consciousness, your spiritual leadership and aligned business strategies. We know that living in alignment with your soul's mission is what fulfills you, and we are here to show you how to achieve this in an energetically aligned way. If you haven't already, be sure to claim your free abundance activation in the Akashic Records. Go to louisahavers.com/gift to unlock your abundance activation today. And if you'd like my support in having aligned success in life and business, then contact me at www.louisahavers.com and let's explore together if it's an aligned match. Get ready to live at your highest value and to expand into your next level of money as you elevate and receive more. You create more for others. Righty ho, let's dive into today's episode. So welcome everybody. I'm so excited for our conversation today. I wanted to curate a roundtable of leaders that I will personally know, so that we can talk about what we're seeing in business in a specific area. And I'm so excited to introduce you all to each other. I know some of you know each other already and some of you are new to each other's world. And for us to be able to share this conversation with our communities as well. So for everyone listening, I am your host, Louisa Havers. I'm the creator of the Helix Method, our energy psychology modality. And I'm a Master Akashic Records teacher and trainer with the Soul Journeys Method. And I help self-aware entrepreneurs break through their upper limits in life and business. And this fabulous roundtable of leaders who are experts in their fields, they are all crystal clear channels. I'm so excited for our conversation today on discernment in channeling. We want this to be of highest service to everybody so that people can have, confidence in the channels that they choose to listen to know how to be discerning, how to distinguish between truth and deception, because there's a load of noise out there, and to be supported on their ascension journey. So we've got an hour together. I want to make sure everyone, we have a great conversation and we hear from everybody. Let's do some quick intros. Baljeet, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm an Akashic Record consultant and a teacher. I'm also an authentic Tantra practitioner, sexologist, a DJ and producer, and I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you, Baljeet. Delphine.
Yeah, hello everybody. So I'm also an intuitive channel, Akashic Record Channel. I'm a Magdalene priestess, quantum healer, and I do a lot of sacred feminine work focused on awakening the feminine energy, especially for women.
Beautiful. Thank you, lovely. Elise, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Elise Basine, and I'm a spiritual mentor and founder of the Metamorphosis Method certification program, the premier breathwork training school. So really excited to be here.
Oh, thank you, lovely. Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, ladies. Lovely to meet you all. My name is Samantha Selby, and I'm the creator of Ascension Astrology, and I'm a channel for Star Goddess activations. And there is such a similarity between all our work, which I know is why Louise has pulled us all together. So I am an EAM Master Mentor, only one of 3 in the entire world. And I combine astrology, the study of the stars and the planets, especially goddess energy, the asteroid goddesses, with healing modalities and psychology, and shifting, changing your energy so you change your reality. And it's fabulous to be here today with all of you.
Thanks, Sam. And Leilani, huge welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Louisa. Hi, everyone. I am Leilani. I am an Akashic Records practitioner, an energy healer, a medium, a life coach, and yeah, I'm just really excited and happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so excited for our conversation today. Well, let's dive in, because I know this is something that behind the scenes we've all been sort of talking about individually. So really just thought, it'd be so fantastic to talk about this together, because as consciousness rises, and of course we can see so much that's going on in the social media, making everything more accessible, and people seeing more people channeling specific beings, groups of beings, Akashic records, light languages, and all the things. Would love to hear, as we start to dive in, what you're seeing at the moment in relation to channeling, and for people to have confidence in their discernment in whether they're channeling truth or who they're listening to, what you're noticing at the moment. And I know, Baljeet, when I mentioned this to you, you were nodding frantically out with me. So do you want to kick us off? Would love to hear your initial reflections. What are you noticing at the moment?
Yeah, there's a lot of channelers out there, and as someone who, looks online or whatever, I always ask myself, how does it feel and resonate in my body, physically? And if it doesn't resonate, then I just move on. And a lot of people tend to forget about being in their body as part of being a channel. And so if one's not really in their body at all, and, they're either receiving information from other channelers or they're channeling themselves, they may not be fully aware of what and who they are channeling, and that being the divine truth as well.
Thank you so much. Fabulous. Delphine, any reflections to add to what Baljeet's started?
Yes, actually, I think just on a funny note, that these days I find that everybody's either a channel or a healer, and it's become really interesting to be in that space. And often when people ask me something that I say, which is very simple, I like to say that everybody, for example, can learn to play the piano, but not everybody is a professional pianist. And I think it's important for me to keep the space without the glamour of I'm a healer, I'm a channel, and simply to hold the space where everyone can be a channel, everyone can be a healer, but there is a level of proficiency that can be developed and accessed. And I think that's part of education, and is something that I like to share with people. And therefore that there's nothing to be so glamorized by when you meet a channel or when you meet a healer, but common sense, and to start doing a little bit of research on what's that person journey, where and how she become a professional channel or a healer, what are our credentials. Not that they all mean some of them, you also have to discern if those credentials make sense. And then finally, I would say that it's always important to stay in your power, whoever you're talking to, whether it's a doctor or a healer or a lawyer. Stay in your power. Just stay anchored in your own knowingness, in your own power. And that's the first place of response to any information that may be shared, whether it's from the higher dimensions or from the lawyer in the office.
Oh, I love that. So really honoring your inner knowing, and whether it feels true or not for you in relation to what's being channeled to you. I love what you were saying about not having the sort of, it's this kind of spiritual hierarchy that I see sometimes playing out with. It's almost can become toxic with people, or narcissistic might be a better word, because it's playing out on social media. Elise, I'd love your initial reflections as we sort of diving into this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really resonating with everything everyone's saying. And I think what we're seeing, from a astrological perspective and just energetic perspective in general is the age of the guru is over. Everyone has to really run everything through their own internal guidance system. And if you don't, you really would just be swimming in a sea of way too much information. And I don't know how anybody could sift through everything that's out there if you're not running everything you see through your own internal guidance system. And then as you do that, you kind of sharpen those muscles, or you build those muscles of being able to tell what's for you and what's not for you. Because if you don't do that, then that's just going to be completely overwhelming. And obviously I know channeling and just understanding what that is has become much more like, I know I've been guided to teach channeling, and a lot of us have been guided to teach it, because I think we're stepping into a time where it's more about people learning how to build their own connection to, to source, to their higher self, to whatever it is. And not so much rely on other people. Like, I think that's what we're really stepping into now. And I know for me, like before in my journey, I would connect with different, energies that I would channel. And now it's kind of like all merged into one thing where I just channel like what I channel, like the higher wisdom that I channel. And I don't even have a name for it, because I feel like it's just kind of all one thing. And I know everyone kind of feels that way too. So I think we're kind of just moving into people just trusting that higher wisdom that they're tapping into, and you can just feel it and it. And, that's kind of what I'm seeing for other people as well.
Oh, yes, I love it. I love it. I'm going to come to Sam and then Leilani. Sam, I'd love to know, what are you seeing at the moment in terms of, with your own channeling and the clients that you're working with in relation to channeling discernment and channeling truth?
So I find it really fascinating that this is the conversation we're having now. From an astrological perspective, the sun is moving through Virgo at the moment, and Virgo teaches us discernment. It teaches us to know right from wrong, what serves us, what doesn't. It's one of the archetypal lessons that we all have to learn. So when this was the subject, it's well, of course it's going to be. And of course, I find what's been interesting for me listening to all of you ladies sharing your experiences, and it's really resonating with me in a way that it's bringing back memories from a while ago. So I've been working in this kind of field, I suppose you would call it, for probably about 26 years. And so many years ago, Reiki as a modality was massive. It was one of those, it's like everybody and their wife were doing Reiki courses, and they were doing it over a weekend, and they would be attuned over the course of a weekend, and then they're a Reiki practitioner and a Reiki healer. And it was, and this was, as I said, it was a while ago, and it really diluted the purity of the energy. And so I did my Reiki training alongside everybody else, and it didn't sit comfortably with me anymore. It was kind of, the energy, as I said, was really diluted. It wasn't pure, and there was the training, the study, you could become a master in 2 weekends. And if you did your training back to back, and it's like, well, what happened to basically exercising your muscles, getting your stripes, doing sessions, and I really pulled away from Reiki, and I kind of stopped telling people I did it. It was like, this doesn't fit with me anymore. Although, of course, you can't unattune, you can't take that away. It became part of what I did, but just not under that label. And for me, channeling, it feels as if that it could go down that route, because, as you say, there are so many people that are like, yes, this is I'm a channel, like everywhere. And I think it's really important for all of us to hold that space of the purity. And for those of us that are and like many of you, it's evolved. My channeling has evolved over time. I don't teach it, and I really don't feel a calling to. When I'm receiving and I'm passing on whatever I'm getting, I will always say, how does this land for you? How does this feel true in your body and your energy? And if it doesn't, then it's, don't take it. And I feel quite passionately as we're talking about this, that actually we need as a community to be in our integrity in what we're talking about, and also to teach and share with our clients, our audience, that they have to be discerning as well. And it's really interesting when I have been dipping in and out of social media, the fear speak that is coming up. And for me, that is when I really, that's, if someone's focusing on the fear, that's it, like, no, that's my signal of I'm not engaging in that. And so for me, it's really about being true to what resonates for me, and if it doesn't resonate for me, then I walk away, and maintaining that purity of, by speaking our truth, by being true to ourselves, and demonstrating that in the way that we live our lives as well. And I think that will keep the purity and the simplicity, and that for me is really important. Being truthful with ourselves and being honest, and then that's all we really need to be, and without painting it into something that it isn't. So yeah, I suppose that's where I'm sitting. It's been a really interesting question, actually, and I'm thank you for asking, because it's made me reflect as I'm listening to you ladies. And it's powerful to ask ourselves those questions.
Yeah, and I find it so interesting that I hadn't checked Virgo's placement, but was guided to host this one now.
We got it. Yep, Sun's in Virgo. We got, and that's what the Sun, Virgo teaches us: discernment. Yeah. It teaches us this or this, and if we don't have discernment, we can't make decisions. And actually, that's what we're being asked all the time. It's like, how does that fit with my energy, with my truth? So yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, Leilani, I can't wait to hear your reflections, because I know you channel Akashic Records, a medium as well, and this must be something that comes up for you, for your own personal journey, and also as you're sharing what you receive with others. Would love your reflections.
Yes, Samantha, I love that notion of discernment, because I was thinking that for myself as well. For me, in my own particular journey, it's been about discernment. What is my authentic voice, my sovereignty, my place in this world in relation to spirit, in relation to other? So for me, it's discernment. There's 3 actual voices happening: my own, spirits, and other. And what is important, I think, for those that are starting to now get into this work is having a deep understanding of who you are, what that sense is of your own light, the voice that is different. So you know when it is spirit talking, when you know it is you talking, when you know it's other and ego talking, right? And when you go up, you go higher, you go higher, you go higher to love, so that you actually can feel the energetic discernment of each within all. And I think that it's very important, and sometimes it takes a lot of inner reflection and quietness, quieting all of the things around you, so that you can discern these different voices, and so that you know what is the highest level of consciousness that you are channeling, because we are one with spirit, right? So that in relation and that connection, but going higher, going deeper, and reaching that place, coming from that place of discernment and knowing, right? Like what all these women are saying, coming from that place of body, coming from that place of like, of depth and understanding. And all of these things are true, but always going higher. If you think that there is no higher, there's always higher to go.
I love that. That's so true. As you were sharing that, Leilani, you were reminding me of some of the things that can bubble up for people when they are starting to channel and recognizing that they've got a connection. They're hearing things, they're beginning to feel things, they're recognizing they're getting messages in some form or another. How do they discern between their energy that's been hijacked perhaps by an energy that's not of their highest interest. And just thinking of various things when clients have come to me and said, my guides have said XYZ, they hate me, I can't do this anymore, like nasty stuff. And I'm like, okay, that does not sound like a guide to me. One, you cannot be in the frequency of love when you're receiving that information. That feels like that's an entity. And I know when I've been working with people, you know, on Zoom, and I've called out the entity, and then suddenly the Zoom's cut or they've dropped off and they can't get back on, or, you know, whatever it may be. I would love to hear other people's, if you have them, experiences that, you know, me sharing this story may remind you of experiences you had, so that people kind of know what to look for, what it might look like or sound like, perhaps if they really can take back their power that everyone's been talking about, and say, actually, no, that's not for me, and that energy can go. Who'd like to start with that reflection, with their reflection?
I'll go. I actually just had a client that started work with me a month ago, and she was told by an actual channeler that she was having sex in the other realms, and it actually closed down her sexual energy and actually being able to like just channel. And she is a very, very deeply connected to, you know, herself, and very intuitive. And it really looked like she was being hijacked, like her consciousness was hijacked. And how, you know, it's like if you develop fear, like fear to connect to your own self, or like what's out there, if you believe that there's an external source that's going to take over you, it makes you contract. So we've been working together to develop her confidence, but actually take back her sexual power, and understanding that when you own that, you are a clear conduit, you're more of a channel, a clear channel. And she was taught, you know, more of a false way of channeling from someone else. And so, yeah, having that level of discernment, you just know, because if you feel that fear from someone else that, you know, says something to you, and then you just know, and that's how you're able to really come back to yourself and take back your power. And I love what Samantha shared about, like, I mean, I became a Reiki master years ago. And so, but what just baffles me is when people take like a weekend program and they're like, hey, I'm an expert, let's hire me. And that's where you got to be really discerning. And again, going back to how that feels in your body, does it contract or does it expand? So
true. That's such good wisdom, because it is I talk about this with the Helix Method with my clients that come and work with me. Like, I work with them for a year, because it's when you start working with clients that you really need the support. You know, you can do all the theory in the classroom, and then the real learning actually comes when we're working with people, I think. Delphine, would love to hear your reflections, you know, in relation to what Baljeet has shared.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I don't know if sad is the right word, but it's really concerning, right? That some people are usually seeking guidance when they're very vulnerable, and that vulnerability, you know, is an open crack to all kinds of things entering. And again, I think because people are very vulnerable, you know, education is really important. We just have to, all of us, be championing, you know, educating the field of healing, of channeling, and bringing back standards, you know, so that yeah, there is protection of those who are vulnerable, because when they're in pain and they need help, you know, it's very easy to jump in that and be taken advantage of, because when you have the knowledge, it's obviously a whole lot easier to put your protections and your keyword in place, etc. And what I find again is, you know, bringing the community back to common sense. I think all of us are speaking in one way or the other of staying in the common sense. Am I contracted? What does my body feel like? And there's those somatic responses, but also you're just good old inner wisdom, common sense. And like I had someone recently, I don't even know when, but who was saying, that our grandmother had become our guide, passed away, and the grandmother was the guide. And I said, but what kind of person was your grandmother when she was alive? Was she worthy of, advice? I mean, obviously a grandmother is experienced, etc. But I mean, people are at different level of consciousness, of experience. Just because someone is in the invisible realm doesn't mean they are highly evolved and they are going to give you the highest level of guidance. And as I don't know how to pronounce your name, how do you say your name? Leilani? Yeah, was saying there's different dimensions, and we can reach for higher, and we have to have an understanding of where we're focusing our consciousness. And I think, again, with common sense and education, helping the community to understand that the primary point of safety will be to develop your own consciousness, to have a clear to develop a clear energy yourself. If you have practices, whether breath work, spiritual practices, somatic practices that ensures that you have yourself, you're not looking throughout dirty windows, because that's never going to help you to receive anything that is pure in the first place. So it also starts with the self, because we also attract by vibration. So the type of people that are going to come in the field as channels and healers are also going to reflect us. And I think it's, again, important, going back to those points of the weekend that has made you a master in something. And by the way, I'm also the Reiki master, years. And I was always fascinated by the Reiki system, because back in those years, I was always asking myself at the beginning of my journey, but what will make a good Reiki healer, versus another one? Like, there must have been, I was always thinking there's some missing keys, like something is missing. And of course, it's development of your consciousness. It's your own spiritual work is what starts to make you more proficient and available to a more refined energy. Whether it is your higher self or other higher consciousness of unconditional love, light, or wisdom. But so bringing the community, holding the standard that we bring education. The invisible realm is like, here there are all kinds of neighborhood. it's like we have to be careful where we're hanging out, and that has to be learned. And then clearing your own field, and as I said earlier, staying in your power, knowing certain invocation to make sure that what you're connecting to is pure and supportive. And the last piece, I think, is that true higher guidance is usually subtle, consistent, and unconditionally loving.
That's so key. It is. That's the kind of big red flag, I think, for people to pay attention to. If it doesn't feel loving, then that's not a high level of consciousness. Thank you so much, Delphine. I was like, well, I feel like you've just kind of set the ball rolling for standards and channeling in the field. This is so exciting. Elise, I'd love to know, what's been bubbling up for you as you're listening to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of things. Well, first of all, I always tell my clients to, like, if it's anything based in fear, then most likely it's not coming from, well, it's not. I don't want to say most likely, it's not coming from your higher self or higher wisdom. I always get, my clients will ask me like, oh, well, I got this like hit, but it's like around like worry or anxiety. And I'm like, that's fear. That's not, because sometimes people will think like, oh, is that an intuitive hit, or do I need to worry about this? And I always tell people, if there is, if you do get an intuitive hit, it's not going to feel scary, even if it might be something that, like, you have to prepare for, or that could happen. It's still not going to feel scary. It's going to feel more like a knowing. So, I think that's so important. And then also, like what we were talking about with just standards of healers and just people working in the field. I think it's so important as, somebody who is going, if you're going to somebody else for guidance, if they are saying anything that makes you afraid or makes you feel like you're doing something wrong or is making you wrong. I've had a lot of clients who have said like, oh, well, I went to this healer and, she said this, and this. That's all kind of like either based in fear or like contracted information. And, I immediately tell them like, no, like that's not something that you need to take forward and have as part of your story, right? And I think that that's just such an important piece for people to understand, and to understand too that like even though there's people that can guide us in channeling and healing, in Reiki even, right? Just to bring it back to that, it still comes down to everyone having to do it for themselves, in the sense that like you still need to develop your own way of connecting when it comes to channeling. You still need to develop your own way of healing when it comes to healing. Like there's people who can, like I always say in my breathwork training program, the Metamorphosis Method, I'm always telling people like I'm showing you these tools that I've created and I'm showing you this methodology, but ultimately what will happen is it just sparks a remembering for you of the things that you already know how to do and the ways you already know how to heal people, because everyone has their own, like everyone has to go through that. So I think that's the most important thing to understand is like everyone, uh, people can remind you of things and show you things, but really it's about everyone kind of coming to that within themselves and finding their own journey within themselves and finding their own ways of doing things that work for them. So, I do think that it's more now than ever around like that individual and inner journey more than anything else.
There's a real theme here. I'm hoping people are hearing. It's just fantastic hearing all your reflections, because there's so much wisdom that everyone's got here, and wealth of experience. Sam, what's bubbling up for you as you're hearing about red flags and everyone's wisdom that they have shared so far?
For me, it's I loved Delphine when you just said it's like people are looking through dirty windows, and that was like, oh, just exactly it. And for me, really knowing that whoever you're trusting with your life, your energy, who you are turning towards for help and support, for me, it's always really important, if I'm looking for a mentor or a guide to support me, that I know that that person is supported by somebody, something, they have somewhere where they turn to, because we can get stuck in our own stuff. And if I know that who I look towards is being supported, I know that their energy will be as clear as it possibly can be, because they are intentional about their own development continuously. And that means that they will then be able to support me, which means I can support my clients. And it's this kind of cascade, this ripple effect that works up and down. And so when I'm, what was coming up when I'm listening to all of you ladies talking is that's really important as well, because we need our windows to be clean and clear, just as much as we're encouraging our clients' windows to be clean and clear. And so the more we can know and recognize the truth of ourselves, and I think everything that you've all been saying, and underneath all of that is know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Know yourself. And when you know yourself, that's when you tune into your intuition. You are, as we've all said, anybody can be a channel, anybody can receive, anybody can do this. Becoming what would the language be? I don't even know if it's master, that doesn't fit. It's being clean and pure in the energy of love.
Mm.
invent a name for that. There needs to be a label. Master doesn't.
We need to brand it.
Yeah, master feels too masculine, but it if you get what I mean. And we owe it to the people we work with to recognize and know ourselves, and to receive support for our stuff, so that we can remain clear, clean, and true. And so we have to walk our talk. And I think it's really important for us to demonstrate that. So when I'm with my clients, knowing themselves is the most important thing. And the more I can know myself, the more I can pass that on. And that's why I bring astrology into all of my work, because it's the energy of possibility, but it helps people to understand themselves. And even this morning when I was having a conversation with a new client, and she was like, I've now got permission because to be myself. It feels like you've given me permission to be myself. And that was just goosebumps magic. And it's like, yes, this is why we do what this is why we've invested hundreds of thousands of pounds in our personal development, and our business development, and our, the numbers are enormous. Our time, our money, investing in ourselves so that we can then pass that wisdom. And our wisdom is from whoever we've invested in, and from there it's kind of like the grandmother energy coming down. And it's just beautiful. So in listening to all of you, it comes back to the knowing yourself. It's just, that's the truth. And that energy of, if it's coming from a place of love, that's the most important thing. And in all of this, it's us loving ourselves and demonstrating that, so our clients can then see that and then love themselves, because they see it happening around them. And perhaps in their lives, they've not experienced that. They've not grown up with parents that truly love themselves, or their partners. And so we can show that as much as we possibly can. Then, we're creating that ripple effect. And that's what I see as the magic in all of this. It's the ripple. It's the love. Let's just love each other.
Share the love.
Share the love.
That it's so true, this being in the frequency of love and moving out of contraction and fear, because the messages you're going to receive are going to be completely different. I love what Delphine said about the different postcodes. I just had a sort of like a Monopoly map for me, in terms of like who are you kind of channeling, and depending on which frequency that you're in, if you're in a contracted space and you're setting the intention to channel, what are you going to call in? And then therefore, what's the impact on your energy field when it's feeling like that you're now listening to wisdom that you're thinking is a higher consciousness, but actually it's there's red flags that perhaps you haven't been aware of. Leilani, I'd love to hear your kind of reflections in terms of any red flags or warning signs that you think people can be mindful of, or are seeking guidance from spiritual practitioners.
Yeah, definitely. I love what everybody is saying. It's so important to come from that place of self first, but to take it further, because oftentimes we may know where we come from, but we don't know how to utilize conscious choice. So actually utilizing conscious choice, utilizing your sovereignty, not forgetting that while there are experts and a million Reiki masters and healers in the world, we have a choice of that discernment. What do we choose to take in? What do we choose to say no to? And I see it so often when I'm working in mediumship, right? There are so many entities and beings that come in that are less than love light frequency, right? And so I love Delphine. Oh my God, you had so many wonderful metaphors that I just want to pocket, right? So you're going to have to give them to me later. There's so many choices that you have to make within this work, especially if you're new. So first and foremost, coming from that place of solid sense of self, grounding, unwavered, centered, like finding who you are and shining your light out, and then choosing what you bring in, choosing what you call in, discerning what you feel is right, or is that fear-based, is that ego-based, is that not so resonant, and saying no to that. Because like some of you have said it, Elise, I think you said this earlier, like people, and Bajit as well, you may be a healer, you may be a channeler, but that doesn't mean that they're of the highest love light frequency and the highest consciousness, right? Coming from source. So please, please, please utilize your discernment. Don't forget you have choice and sovereignty. That's people tend to forget that. It's like the number one thing is like, oh, there's so many others claiming expertise that, okay, who am I? No, actually, you are the highest power in your life. So please use that.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. It really feels like that's the key message of really being able to know yourself when you are receiving messages, if you've gone for a reading, or indeed if you're perhaps, you know, there's so much available on YouTube with people channeling messages, etc. And I know that sometimes when I've listened to something on YouTube, I'm like, there's a texture to this that just feels a bit wonky. And you know, there might not be more than that, but I just know in my body that that's not for me, and it's not feeling of the highest form, like you know, light source for me to listen to. Does that resonate? Bajit, have you had that?
I just had a memory of like listening to someone's light language, and they were channeling light language, and they were just like in the zone, and I was like, ooh, I'm like, this feels very off. And there's a lot of people that are now doing light language, and you just know when you feel it in your body, if it feels like a pure frequency that's supporting you, or if it's just like gibberish that they're channeling. But yeah, I just had that memory of hearing someone's light language.
Brought it back for you.
Yeah. I usually end up laughing, and I was like, what the F is this?
And it's interesting, isn't it? Thinking like, is that person, well, we don't know, is the person kind of being deceitful and pretending, or do they think they have tapped into the highest form of light to channel that?
I feel like when I legit look at it, I do feel like they genuinely think they've really tapped in, or they want to believe that they're really tapped in. Again, it goes back into, you know, I took a weekend workshop, and therefore I can now do light language, and here I am, and I'm going to put myself out into the world. Like, they're really trying their best, but there's definitely, you know, more education, more awareness, and inner work that needs to be done to be able to channel light language. And it's a specific frequency. Like, you're going to know if it's actually really light language, or if it's just something else.
That's so true. Anyone else tapped into light language and got reflections on this? Leilani, I can see you nodding away.
I have a similar experience. I also speak light language, and I laughed because, you know, it's one of those things, right? So many people are being awakened, right? Like, that is the truth. And it is important that we are having these conversations, and we're actually talking about discernment. But I also had this experience where someone's like, oh yeah, they speak light language, and then they just started speaking, and I'm like, that is nonsense. It's nonsense. That means nothing. That is gibberish. And there is this it just reminds me of, also, please don't compare yourself to somebody else's journey, because while you may wish and want that for yourself, it may actually look like something else. That doesn't mean the frequency is any less. That doesn't mean the connection is any less, but it may look like something else. So again, coming back to sense of self, and not needing to be like other, because there are so many light workers. I don't even like these trendy terms, to be honest. Like, they don't really resonate with me, but that's what the field is using, and that's what people are gravitating towards, because it's like, ooh, the shiny thing, right? Like I want this shiny thing in my pocket. So just please don't compare yourself and continue to use discernment. Like Baljit was saying, it things resonate at a high frequency. I do believe that some of these people do think they are tapping in, but that might be their highest frequency because they haven't actually accessed what we've been discussing already thus far. Right. So it's a journey, and don't allow yourself to be discouraged or compare your journey to somebody else's. Like me with these beautiful women, everybody has their own modalities, has their own journey and experience through this beautiful work. And it's a welcoming and knowing what feels resonant to you and what doesn't. And it's simply that choice.
I love that. It is resonance within the body, and knowing that that's the truth for you. I love what you touched on there around recognizing that those that are channeling those frequencies that might be feeling that they're not in resonance for us, but that is the highest that they've gone to on their journey so far. That really landed. Leilani, I thought that was beautiful. Elise, what's coming to mind as you're listening to this part of the conversation?
Yeah, it's funny what you said about what Leilani said about like it's the highest frequency they have gotten to, and I like see that exact thing too. It's just kind of like where somebody's at, and that's okay. It's not like, oh, this is like wrong or bad. It's just like not, you know, resonant for me or you or whatever. And I know for me, especially with light language, I feel it in my body immediately, so I can tell really quickly, um, whether or not it's for me or it's of the highest light, because it just kind of hits me like in my body. Um, and especially like with most things, but especially with light language, for some reason, it's like you can just immediately feel it. And I have that experience with it all the time when it's, coming from people that I know are channeling the purest and highest light. So yeah, I mean, and I think it's just this is what we're all ultimately doing here is our own inner work and continuing to discover ourselves and, helping other people along the way. So I think that's the most important thing to come back to. And I think in the beginning, for a lot of people, it can be overwhelming when you see all of these things that all of these people are doing. But I think it's so important, like Leilani said, not to compare yourself to other people, because I think that's pretty much like 99.9% of the like problems that anyone can encounter is comparing yourself to other people and then making yourself wrong and then like having a problem, right? But it really just is about continuing to listen to your own inner guidance and going through this journey for yourself and allowing yourself to really trust like what you're drawn to, who you're drawn to, and really listening to that. I think that is really the most important thing. And then kind of like I know for me since the very beginning, it was just like, okay, I know I'm supposed to go here. I know I'm supposed to go here. And I just kind of like had, tunnel vision and wasn't really looking at a whole lot of anything else because it just felt like too overwhelming, especially in the beginning, So I think that's a good way to be is just like kind of have, vision towards like what am I being drawn to now? Like what is the next step for me now? And then like go towards that and trust that and then just see what unfolds from there.
I love that. That really feels, as you were sharing about that, how we can have an onslaught on our attention to distract us from what we really want to achieve, which then kind of weakens our energy field because we're trying to kind of focus on too many things. But you had that experience of right, nope, I'm lasering in. I'm just going to do this and focus on that. Thank you so much, Delphine. What's been bubbling up for you as you're reflecting on the conversation?
Another of my metaphors is coming to mind.
I like metaphors.
This is actually to be fair from my mentor, and I loved what Sam said about this continuous support that helps us to be accountable to ourselves, that we continue to develop very high standards for ourselves. And so the metaphor from my mentor was about the difference between capacity and proficiency. And we were saying that, whilst there are hundreds of thousands of McDonald's out there, there are not that many wholesome vegan restaurants, for example. And that when you have a refined palate, you might not want to go to McDonald's and you might prefer to go to the vegan whole food local restaurant. And I think in part of the discernment is also for the community to discern that popularities and number do not always equate proficiency and capacity. And what is very high frequency may not yet be palatable to mass consciousness, and therefore you may be operating in a sort of smaller niche space, which will be usually found by those people who are coming closer to that frequency. And what I find usually bad news in clients is those who have absorbed so much of those free, YouTube, Instagram. Like, as we said, of course, it's amazing that we are spiritually awakening and a lot is becoming available. But there's also the downside of absorbing too many things, which sometimes are not that high frequencies. And that ends up, again, creating a field around that person, an aura, a frequency that is so muddy, so unclear. And so I think it's very important in that process of finding guidance to spend the time to decide. For some of us, for all of us here, I think we have developed a level of intuition, of frequency, where we have a very strong knowingness that this is for me, this is not for me. I'm not sure that's true for everyone at this stage. And those people who are still in that journey of awakening their intuitive powers, they reinforce, learning, as I think Leilani said, like learning what is my thought, what is a guidance thought, what is, a psychic garbage from the field. Like these are processes that, it's like, like you're walking into a supermarket. If you're not self-aware and yet educated, you can come out with a ton of thoughts that are not yours. You can, and so helping our clients, communities through our social medias and offerings, etc., to help to understand that capacity and proficiency is not always popularity and numbers, and that it's important to really be discerning about that.
I love that. That's some powerful reflections there. That's so true, so true. We can kind of get swayed by this big pendulum of energy with the popularity and the numbers on the internet, but it's just programming, isn't it, to kind of take us down and shift us onto that consciousness. Whereas if we stay in our truth, that's really been like go within and see what's true for you, is how you kind of navigate the noise in the field. I can see, Sam, I was going to come to you. Are you good? You got to make tea?
No, I'm good. My daughter Rosie, who was doing lots of sign language, which was basically asking, can she go to the
Okay, oh bless her. We'll wrap up shortly. It was just lovely to hear from you and Baljeet before we wrap up.
Yes, yeah. So what was bring my thoughts back now?
Yeah.
Where was I?
Your consciousness got hijacked by the park.
my consciousness was then mum mode.
Yeah.
Back now to that was it. What I find, and this is really interesting, when we've all been talking about light language, and I think it was Brigitte who said, it was like that's just gobbledygook. It's kind of that, and it was making me really reflect on frequency, and I think this is really what we've all been saying. It's everyone's at their own frequency, their own evolution, their soul evolution, and every person, every being, should I say, on this in this existence here, will resonate with different frequencies. So one person's gobbledygook is going to be somebody else's. They're going to receive it because they're at a level where they will receive that, but where, you know, we have, all of us have been intentional about our soul development. We've been intentional about keeping clearing our energy of all the crap, all of the supermarket stuff that we've attracted, and that has been held in our energy. We're intentional about that. And so our frequency is not, and it's not a right or a wrong or a higher or lower or anything like that. It's just different. And so we will, what's going to resonate for us isn't going to resonate for somebody else, but somebody else who feels as a resonance that will, it's like, okay, now that fits. And we're all in this evolution. We're all changing. This is what we're here to do. We're part of this. We're in the age of Aquarius. This is what this is about. There will be more and more, and the frequency and the vibration of the planet is increasing. It's speeding up faster now than it has ever. And there is this speeding up, it's increasing kind of, and we're navigating that. And the more, as we've all been saying, we can stay true to ourselves and to love and to light. And if it's from love, if it feels love and it lands in our energy, then that's it. It's kind of the bottom. And this is what I've taken is love, just love. From everybody's very open sharing of their experiences, but that's really what we've all been talking about, is the energy, and that's it. That's what it all comes down to. So it's been fascinating. I want to listen back to the recording. You can. There will be more nuggets that I will glean from listening to all of you ladies again. So I'm looking forward to listening to the recording, because then I'm going to be listening to and receiving it in a very different way, because I'm not in it. And that. So, yeah.
Thank you, lovely. Oh, Baljeet, any final thoughts to add to our conversation that comes to mind?
I love that analogy that Delphine shared, and I believe it was Leilani that talked about competition as well, or comparison and competition. I think that really, with the numbers and the followers, where I feel that you can really go astray when you see someone that has a ton of followers and it's like, okay, I'm going to learn from them. But if it's not in alignment, I think people really bypass their own intuition, their own divine guidance as well. And it's really important, because it's like, I loved how you brought up like McDonald's, and it's like spiritual junk food, right? There's a lot of spiritual junk food out there. But also the comparison. And I feel like if you find yourself comparing or feeling also competitive too, I think that really contracts your energy field. That doesn't allow you to be a divine channel. And I've seen people who actually like bought their followers on IG, and it's like they went from 50 to like 50,000 and calling themselves an expert. And to me, it's an integrity piece as well. So integrity is very, very important. And that's a thing that you need to ask yourself when you're, working with yourself, but also with someone else. Is, am I in integrity with myself? And is this person in integrity with what they're channeling as well?
Love it. Thank you. Those are fantastic final words by Baljeet. This is so brilliant. I've absolutely loved our conversation. It's so great to connect and chat. We'll pop everyone's details below the recording so that everyone can listen and stay connected. Do you want to just very quickly go around and let people know where's best to find you? I know you've got to dive off, Elise. Elise, where can people find you?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at Elise_breathes. You can find me at elisebreathes.com. I also have my podcast, Reclaiming Consciousness, which is a great place to connect with me and my work. And then my Facebook group, Financial Freedom for Spiritual Entrepreneurs.
Beautiful. Thank you, lovely. Delphine. Where can people find you?
Yeah, yeah. So my website, delphinerose.com, my Instagram, oracle _of _Delphine. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh, beautiful. Lovely. Leilani, where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, leilanilucero.com. I'm also on Instagram. I am Leilani Lucero, Facebook and YouTube as well.
Yay. Thank you, lovely. Balsheet.
Yeah, you can find me at beljeetriot.com, and Instagram is I am Beljeet Riot. You can also find my SoundCloud that's on my website as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, lovely. And Sam.
So I'm on Facebook under my profile, Samantha Selby. I have my podcast, Star Goddesses and What's for Tea, which when you started talking about food, Melanie, I was like, oh God, because I'm now really rumbling. I have a so yeah, Facebook or my website, samanthaselby.com. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Beautiful. And those that are new to me, I'm Louisa Havers. You can find me on YouTube, Louisa Havers, Facebook, Instagram, Louisa Havers. Nice and simple. We'd love to stay connected, touch with everyone. Thank you so much for everyone's shares and wisdom today. It's just been so insightful to get all your perspectives and to have this conversation. I feel that standards for channeling are being born right now, and there's just so much for people to take away in terms of really having confidence in what feels right for them. That really feels the wonderful message away with, and really leading with love. Love is the highest frequency, your truth discernment filter to pop everything through. I hope that this serves all our communities, and looking forward to having some more conversations. Sending you all loads and loads of love. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. And if you like what you've heard and want to know more, please go to louisahavers.com. We just appreciate you so much. So thank you for listening and hanging out with us. If there's anything that we can do for you, you can email us at louisa@louisahavers.com. Let my team know if you have any ideas for shows that you'd love to hear or topics you want me to talk about. Really looking